So it's nice that we have, code right now that will do conversions for us, but it's kind of inconvenient, right? We have to go through user inches or enter in user inches if we wanted to convert to millimeters. So having code that runs just one line after the other is fairly basic type of programming. So what we need to do is find a way to be able to call a certain section of the code and have that code execute. So first, what we'll do is let's create a selection for the user that would tell the user that we want them to, what do they want to do? So do they want to convert from inches to millimeters or from millimeters to inches? So let's do our pseudocode again so we can make sure we've got that. So ask the user which option for conversion. And then we want to somehow figure out how to select the option the user chooses. All right, so ask the user. Well, we know how to do that. So let's call that maybe user's choice. So user choice is equal to, and we would use an input statement, and then we would ask the user the question. Do you want to convert from inches to millimeters or millimeters to inches? Now that's pretty good. We're asking the question, but there could be a significant number of answers. The user might put yes, might put Y, might put inches to millimeters. So there's lots of things that we might not be able to anticipate that the user enters in. So what would probably be better is if we come up with some type of a menu. So please select, and then let's do an escape character, and we will go to the new line. Okay. And that will just get us to a new line. And then if we do the escape character again and a T, that will tab it over. So the first selection is select 1, okay, the number 1, to convert from inches to millimeters. Okay. And we will do another tab and another new line. Whoops. All right, if it makes it a little easier for you to read, you could actually do something like this. And then you would just continue the single quotes. And then we would do the same here. So we would end this line. But I want you to keep in mind that putting it on a new line doesn't necessarily mean that it will come out as a new line. Well, it means it won't come out as a new line. This is simply just a way for us to better visualize what's happening. So here we're going to put a 2, and we will say, let's erase that 2. Let's just say convert. Just to get a little more simple. Convert from millimeters to inches. All right, and we expect the user to select either 1 or 2. So we expect user input should be a 1 or 2. Now it'd be good programming practice to be able to say, what if the user put in a 3, what should I do? But for now, we're good there. All right, so we have a menu option for the user. It doesn't do anything yet, but let's take a look at what that menu looks like. So we'll save our code with Control S, and let's run it. So we can see right there, maybe we want to do an additional new line, because here we have at the end of select, we have a new line, and then we've tabbed over and tabbed over. So we probably want a new line for selection or something like that. So let's go back up to the code, and this will give us a chance to then write a tab. Whoops, the other one, a tab, and then I mean, this isn't the best menu of all time, but it'll serve our purposes. So now we have a line. Let's save that and run it. Oh, I was still stuck. I couldn't figure out what was going on here. I was still stuck in the program. That's why I can't run it again. So if that happens, come up here, and we're just going to do an interrupt. So this stop sign stops the code. Okay, so now we should be able to run the script. And here we see that, oh, we didn't do a new line, but we do have the user selection. So if the user selected 2, then the variable user choice would be assigned the value of 2, but no decision has been made. Okay, now let's go back up to our code, and we'll tackle this select the object the user chooses. So in order to do this, we are going to utilize a conditional statement. A conditional statement is used by using the keyword if. Okay, so we want to do if, and then what are we going to evaluate? So in order to evaluate something, I would give the thing I want to evaluate. So if user choice equals, so we do double equals to say, is this the value, rather than assigning it a value. If user choice equals 1, then we want to, we'll just put pseudocode in here for now. We want to convert from inches to millimeters. Okay, that's fairly straightforward. And then the next statement that we want to put, and it's really important that we observe tabs here. So see how I've got 4 spaces right there? The tab indicates everything inside here. This line of code would execute in the if statement. Okay, if I had a line of code over here, this line of code would execute outside of the if statement. We'll see how that's critical here in a minute, but we just want to make sure that we can see that we have 2 separate places, and we determine whether or not we're inside this if statement just by this tab. All right, so if user choice equals 1, well, what if user choice equals 2? So in Python, we have something called an else if. The else if will allow us to do a secondary evaluation. So else if, so ELIF, else if user choice equals 2. So if the user choice equals 2, then I want to execute the code convert from millimeters to inches. All right, and then we could actually determine if the user chose some other thing else. And we need just a colon here, and then we would tell the user that is not a choice. Okay. All right, let's just make sure that our if statement is correctly working, and I'm going to delete these 2 lines, but you can keep those in your code, no problem. And I'm just going to print out for now, print that convert from inches to millimeters. Okay, don't forget that closing parenthesis or quote, single quote. And then we want to do the same on this line. We're just going to say for now print convert from millimeters to inches. And this will just indicate whether or not our if statement is correctly working. So let's not forget that we want to put this on a new line. So we'll put a new line character, and let's save it. And we want to stop the current process and go ahead and run that script. So if we come down here, we can see that we're given the option. We have user selection, and now we want the user to enter in, convert from inches to millimeters. Let's do that first. So let's hit a 1 there, and we can see that that is not a choice. So what happened? We thought we were evaluating to determine whether or not that was 1 inch. If we come back up to the code, we can see that the problem is this is an integer. This value right here, number 1. This value right here, when we enter it in as an input, we can, or it turns into a string. So a string does not equal an integer, even though it seems like 1 equals 1. 2 ways that we can do it. The probably simplest way is we'll just convert this to a string. So both of these become a string. Because we're not going to do any mathematical calculations on these, it doesn't matter that it's a string. So let's go ahead and save that. We will stop the process and run it one more time. Then I'm going to hit a 1 here and convert from inches to millimeters. That's what I would expect. Let's go ahead and stop it, and we'll run it again and select 2 and make sure that works. So here we select 2, and we get convert from millimeters to inches. And we've already verified that the else statement, that is not a choice, is correctly working. So go ahead and come up here and interrupt the program as it's running. So we've now given the user a choice, and we've evaluated whether or not, or what choice the user selects. But all we're doing here is printing the words convert from inches to millimeters. We're not actually printing from inches to millimeters. So the first thing that we can do is we could actually come inside of this if block, and remember, everything that is tabbed over is considered to be inside the statement. So I can come down here and give a little bit of space, and this is convert from inches to millimeters, and this is where my commenting comes into handy, right? I have convert from inches to millimeters, so I'm going to copy the code all the way down to right there, right before convert. Then I'm going to use Control X to cut, and then I'm going to put it up here, and I'm going to paste it with Control plus V. All right, the problem is some of this is not tabbed over. So as it stands now, all of this would execute inside this if statement. This stuff would not, because it is not tabbed over. So I can simply just come here to the beginning of it, and I can tab that over. So what I've essentially done is, before, when I did user choice equals 1, it would print this statement, right? Now I want it to print not just print, to actually do a conversion. Now I'm inside here with the conversion. So we can go ahead and delete this line right here. Or let's just comment it out. So we can comment out that line right there, and the first line that will be executed is user inches. All right. It doesn't matter that I have all this white space here. Let's get rid of at least a little bit of it. Maybe keep 2 lines in between there, right? So now this is user selection number 1. And if they select number 2, we want them to be able to convert from millimeters to inches. And so I can grab this right here, and I could do Control X, and I can do Control V to paste that in. And then I'm going to tab this over. Okay, let's save that. And in case your code's still running, you're going to want to stop that. So hit the interrupt button, and we will execute the code. All right, so as expected, we get our menu options. Let's hit the 1 to select convert from inches to millimeters, and we get what is the length in inches. Let's give it 1 inch, and we get the length of 1 inch is equal to 25.4 millimeters. That's exactly what we expected. Notice that we ended the code and we never went into the convert from millimeters to inches. Let's run it one more time, and we'll hit our menu item. And we get convert from millimeters to inches. What is the length in millimeters? So if we hit 25.4, and we get the length of 25.4 millimeters is equal to 1.0 inches. So we've seen now that we are only going to be selecting the code that we want to execute. We'll look in the next section on how we can make this code even better.